So, with this week's Black Box Challenge, I thought I was going to be a lot happier with the end result that I got. When they announced that the next week's ingredients, it was going to be hot sauce, balsamic vinegar, and chocolate, which are relatively simple ingredients that you really don't have to go out of your way to shop for, especially with what's going on right now. And when I heard chocolate, I actually got really excited. Even though I don't eat chocolate, I hate the taste. It's too intense of a flavor for me personally. I do have this Binging with Babish cookbook that has a recipe for chocolate truffles from the movie Chocolat. And initially, my main idea was to make, with the hot sauce, a buffalo chicken sandwich with bacon, pickles, some other ingredients that I like. And when I heard balsamic vinegar, I wasn't sure what to do at first because usually at work I make balsamic vinaigrettes, but I don't have the ingredients necessary to make a vinaigrette. And these challenges are really to use what you already have at home, as opposed to going out of your way to shop for. But since we did have balsamic vinegar, I decided to make a reduction for my sandwich. And that's because Frank's Red Hot Sauce, which is the stuff I use for my buffalo sauce, it's much more acidic with the vinegar base, so I figured with balsamic vinegar have something a lot bitter I could dip it in and maybe offset the flavors. And in a weird way, it actually did, and that's mostly because usually whenever I have buffalo chicken, I have massive heartburn immediately after eating it. That was not the case, and I'm not sure if it was the Worcestershire, the garlic powder, and other ingredients that I usually don't normally add. I usually just use hot sauce and butter because there's a little more flavor to it just with the simplicity. And this one, it didn't really have that spice to it, and again, it could be the balsamic vinegar that I dipped in, but I don't know. But at the same time, that's not really a problem because I got to try something new and actually kind of enjoyed it for once. The big problem for me, though, was making the chocolate. Because, as I said before, the whole chicken sandwich, balsamic reduction for dipping, chocolate truffles that I could give to my mom because she's the only one in my house who actually eats chocolate. And if you've already seen the demonstration I gave, you might say, well, you accomplished that. What was the issue? The issue was making the chocolate. You had to melt it down. I had some chocolate chips that I could melt down with some other ingredients to make a firm ganache to turn into truffles. But not only did I not have a double boiler because the only heat-proof bowl that we had was used to make soap, which even if I dried it out and ran it for a dishwasher, it would still be poisonous to put food in. I made the bold choice of having a DIY double boiler, which was a mason jar in a small pot of simmering water, which I didn't really think was going to be a problem, but as soon as I added in the chocolate, I made the mistake of not going out to buy heavy cream or unsalted butter because I didn't think it was going to make that big of a difference. And I was dumb enough to use 2% milk and margarine to melt the chocolate, which more than likely added moisture to that chocolate and is probably the reason that it's sitting in my fridge completely seized. I'm still saving onto it because you can apparently make brownies or chocolate syrup, and my mom will like that. We still have ice cream. So I was really frustrated because I had spent hours waiting for this chocolate to become a lot more firm, to have a much more rough texture to basically like scoop in for my truffles. And once I admitted to myself it was the fact that I used milk and margarine as opposed to heavy cream and unsalted butter, I did what I should have in the first place and just walked to the convenience store behind my house to get 35% milk. Because you can make it without unsalted butter, and plus all their butter was salted, so I was kind of fucked on that end. But I am happy to say that the end result that I showed you before, simmering the milk, pouring it onto the chocolate, and then mixing it in, and then microwaving it a little bit because the chocolate chips were still taking a while to melt. Thankfully, it worked out very nicely. I put it in the fridge for 2 hours, even though the recipe that I was following did not tell me that it only takes about 10 to 20 minutes tops to harden chocolate. Fucking Babish. And as you can already tell, I had enough chocolate to make a few truffles, and if you're wondering why I turned some of it into chocolate shavings for waffles, it was because once I pulled it out of the fridge, it was a little too hard for me to scoop, and at first I was starting to panic because I felt like I had fucked this up again. I tried to ask a very simple question on Google, which is what happens to chocolate when it when melted chocolate hardens, and they would not give me any straight answers. It's just like, this is what happens when it's overheated, when it's seized. I'm like, it's neither of those things. I don't make chocolate very often, but even I know that. Can you give me a fucking straight answer already? So, at the last minute, I kind of prepared something that I normally have made for breakfast over and over again, which are waffles with whipped cream and chocolate shavings. Usually I also add in dulce de leche, but that takes hours, and it was already 7:30 at night when I was just starting to get things right in terms of making chocolate. And I figured if I sent a picture of that to my bosses, they'd be like, hey, you're keeping with traditional dishes, I like that. But then, as I was scraping out the rest of the bowl, I realized that it was firm enough that I could actually make a few more truffles. So as you can tell, I got a quick bowl of icing sugar, doused them heavily, gave my mom one of them to try out, and it was a success. In the end, I won. In the end, I made the exact dishes that I set out to. I said in my Josh Cast episode that I was going to make a buffalo chicken sandwich with a balsamic reduction and chocolate truffles, and that is exactly what I did. But it doesn't really feel like a victory because of how fucking long it took me to make just about everything, and it's one of those reminders that no matter how many times you do something, even if you've done it once, it's really just based on luck, it's based on circumstances, it's based on your own choices. It's not something that you're going to get right every single time. And I know for a fact that even the most experienced chefs have gone through that over and over again. I had a pastry chef that I worked under who pretty much told me that she had done one simple recipe tens of thousands of times before she even went to culinary school. But then when she went to culinary school, her first time making it for somebody else, something that she's done over and over again in the exact same way, she fucked it up. And there are a lot of motivations that can come with that. Some of it just comes from being distracted by other things. Yesterday was a particularly stressful morning for pretty much everyone in my house, and if I were to go on and on, it would involve nosing into other people's privacy. So I'm not gonna do that. But nevertheless, in the end, I'm happy that I pulled it off, and I know for a fact how to do it next time and how not to do it next time. So, in any case, thank you guys for sitting through that demonstration, sitting through all that nonsense and rambling. Be sure to let me know in the comments below if you want to see more cooking videos like this or what you thought of the dishes that I prepared. Be sure to stay tuned for more content because I'm getting ready to finish off my DreamWorks series with the Prince of Egypt. And be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.